Okay, so working group folks, if you would just come and sit at the front of the auditorium. I don't think they can hear me. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us remotely or in person. If you have a device and have not or want a copy of the charter, you can just go to the website manoa.hawaii.edu/staffcongress at any time. This is also where you would go to submit comments as well. So we'll just be going, we want to do a quick overview of the history, what led us to here, some highlights of the charter itself. So this will be a quick presentation. More we want to hear from you guys, comments, things that you want to adjust as we move forward. So just a quick, this is the working group. These are the people that have been devoting all of their hours and days to creating this charter. If there is a name up here that you're familiar with, you have questions and are afraid to ask out loud now, feel free to just get a hold of the person that you're most familiar with. Or, keep it to yourself, that's fine too. But just so that you know that this working group is all volunteer. We sent out an email to everybody asking who wants to participate. So completely volunteer group. It has a shelf life. Our goal is to get this charter done, bylaws completed and ready for elections so that this staff senate and staff congress can get up and running. Mainly the reason for that is there's a lot of reorgs happening on campus that I'm sure you're aware of. So the ability to participate in those, we wanted as much functionality and a seat at the table in that as possible. So quick history. Some of this should be pretty familiar to you. So on November 29th, we sent out an email inviting everybody to participate in the working group. December 18th was our first meeting. The 20 or so people were there. Very quickly, we had a group turn over a first draft of a charter over the holiday season. And we worked on that up until about January 23rd. We finally submitted that to the chancellor and got a website up and running on February 1st and submitted the charter to all of you for your comments. And here we are on February 8th. So it's been a very fast turnaround period. Many, many hours and days have been spent by this volunteer group to get us to this point. It's still really urgent. We're working on the bylaws right now. So the document that you're looking on is simply the charter, which gives us recognition and a seat at the table and a line on the org chart. The bylaws will have all of the fine details of how we're going to function. So this is not done by any means, but we still have a really tight timeline going forward. Let's see. And the chancellor is also very supportive of this. He's already seen a copy, submitted some comments, and is happy that it's moving forward. He's really excited to see it functioning and operating. We already have submitted some names from the working group itself to participate in some on-campus committees that are forming. So we're already getting traction, and we really want to get this formalized so that everybody on campus is able to participate in, well, all of the eligible staff is able to participate in this process. So some of the major highlights, the guiding principles. So the charter is a guiding principle. It's a simple document just to establish us, and it's not something that we're going to touch. So as you notice reading through it, there's a lot of vagueness to it, purposefully, because the bylaws are what's going to give it the meat, and that's what we can change very quickly moving forward. So it's by nature very vague. Eligible staff, we had to make a determination what eligible staff would be. So the main thing to consider is that in the bylaws, we can always change what eligible staff refers to. For this go around, we were looking at 0.75 FTE because we wanted some sort of people to have like a relationship with the university. Let's see. Most important, I think that there might be some confusion, that there is a difference between a staff Congress and staff Senate versus our union representation. So the charter itself and the bylaws, what we're trying to establish with staff Congress and staff Senate is a seat at the table and shared governance. So it's the same thing that the students have, that the faculty have, and the staff have not had a voice in that manner for just too long. So now we're trying to get that voice there. There's about probably close to 3,000 members on campus at Manoa that deserve to have their voices heard. So that's what we're working on. Union representation, that's your contract. So that document that helps line out your salary ranges and your benefits, like that's what the union takes care of. All of the other things, like the mergers that they can consult with faculty senate, we don't have that voice yet. That's not something they take to the union. So there are many other opportunities for us to have a voice on something, either before it goes to the union for comment, or things that don't even go to the union at all. So that's what this body is going to take care of. So when we say shared governance, I just wanted to point out that these dotted lines are all advisory councils to administration. And so you'll notice very clearly that no staff voice is represented. So staff voices might be represented in some of the smaller groups, but at the moment, and then our voices may be heard but not collectively as a whole. So our 3,000 some odd voices deserve to be grouped together and synthesized and shared with administration. The types of things that we're concerned about and that we see are going to be very different from all of these other groups on campus. The type of work that we do is also very different from these different groups. So I think that we have a very valuable insight to provide for all of this. So we're hoping that this charter will create that dotted line's fun. We'll create that dotted line. So, all right. So next steps. Our next steps are going to be after today's meeting, we are going to be continuing on the drafts for the bylaws. So that's the next thing that we need to get accomplished. We're hoping that by the end of next week, we'll have a date that we will be completing those drafts. But again, having no ability to predict the future, I'm sure that we'll have many more drafts of those to come. On February 20th, as a working group, we're getting together to review comments from today's event. So any comments that people have, people who aren't here, feel free to view the video that will be posted on the staff website. Feel free to check out the charter, give us any questions that you want. We also want your names because we want a dialogue. So any questions or concerns that you have, we want to be able to pick up the phone and get in touch with you. So we can ask, like, we didn't quite understand what you said, but what you're saying is important. So, please clarify this point. So it's important to have your name attached to it so that we can do the best job possible. Some point during February, I'm hoping that there will be a change to the organizational chart, but I can't guarantee that will happen. That is aspirational because I'm hoping that by the end of February, everything's going to be set so that we can do all of the elections to get our senators in place and actually have a functioning group instead of a working group. So, yes, that's going to happen, people. So, welcome. You are actually all members of the Congress if you are at this meeting now. I'm going to open this up for questions. So I think our main goal was to hear from people. If you have a question, you just raise your hand. We have Sparkle Shoes Kate here on the roving mic. And maybe Jarrett.
I don't see any questions yet, but if you guys can send it to the chat, we can read that out for you. But if there's any questions in the room, you can raise your hand and we can get to you. Is there any questions at this time? It was easy.
Ideally, how big is the Senate supposed to be? Like, how many members of our staff, like, across campus?
Right now, we're looking at about 20. In our bylaws, we're going to have that kind of with more detail. But the Congress, again, is going to be made up of all eligible members. The Senate, we're still looking at it as potentially a Senate model or maybe a representative model. Of course, in the beginning, we feel like we will have the ability to change it if necessary, but about 20. We do have a question from the chat. It says, have you guys seen a lot of pushback from faculty? So maybe we can open that up to some of our working council staff.
So far, it is very new, so we haven't really had a lot of pushback. I think some curiosities and some questions. I know that the charter was sent over to the Faculty Senate for review as well. I think generally they're supportive. Yes, we're going to say they're supportive. And then also, on your question about how large the Senate will be, so this first year, we have no idea how it's going to work, right? Like, we are trying to keep it very simple and very clean so that we can we can start being represented and have a way to do that. I foresee many adjustments happening over the years, and this model will probably change. But the simplest way for us to get started was to just do, just pick a small enough group that we could work with that could still be representative of the entire campus.
Can you talk about the other campuses' staff groups to the rest of us?
So several of the community colleges have groups. LCC, WCC, KCC has probably the most famous one. West Oahu is working on creating one. I don't believe Hilo has one. I don't think any of the colleges. Is Hilo? Yeah, I don't think so. HCC does have one as well. So there's a variety of ways that they've coordinated themselves. There have been joint, like LCC does like a joint faculty and staff senate model. There are other ones where it's just staff, faculty, they're separated out from each other. Yeah, I think also the ultimate goal is to get a system level staff council developed as well, but it seemed a little silly to try to do that if the Manoa campus didn't have the staff council. So that is the ultimate goal.
I guess building off of that, one of the things in the reorg is they're looking at hybrid vice presidents and people's positions that are going to, I would say, kind of bridge between the system and Manoa. We have also seen this with our buildings and grounds, that the buildings and grounds staff is now under a system level office. Are we going to be inclusive of the system level employees that are working on the Manoa campus, or is this just for Manoa line employees?
So I think that we're most comfortable speaking just for the start of this, like for this year. There's so many things that we have no idea how they're going to work out. Right now, it's just the hybrid employees. Fully supportive if system wanted to create something, they can just take this and copy it. It's fine. But at the moment, just focusing on hybrid and Manoa employees.
Okay, we have another question online. It says, what are some of the earliest areas that the Senate would tackle that you guys are thinking of? So I think we have the reorg is probably one of the areas that kind of brought this together, but it wasn't the only reason. I think this is something that, because other campuses have their own staff senate, it feels like this is something that we're supposed to get get onto it. I mean, we should already have this established. But of course, there's other topics that we feel that should be going through potentially the staff senate to at least be consulted with, and something that we can at least have a voice and a seat at the table, so to speak.
Well, so some examples of what Faculty Senate got that we never got as a staff, like the smoking ban on campus, or I guess I should say the smoke-free campus. So that's something that got sent to the union for comment, but ideally probably would have been sent to staff senate if there one existed. So things of that nature. So yeah, much broader than just the reorg. Really hard to say, like so many things that the university does that we still haven't seen yet as a group. So.
Any questions here? We have another question online that asks, what about different departments at Manoa? Will departments have their own senate? I think this refers to something like the College of Education has its own Congress and Senate. I don't think this is something that we were necessarily thinking about at the individual department levels. We were thinking as a Manoa as a whole would have this staff senate. Yeah, we didn't really address the individual units, and that's the only really senate that we knew about was the probably COE. Is there any other questions here? Concerns? I mean, you guys will have the opportunity to submit your feedback and questions about the actual charter online, and we'll certainly look at a lot of that. A lot of those comments, but it'd be nice if you can start a dialogue here and we can answer those questions as well.
Come on, we have voice now. Here we go.
It's really nice to know that, we'll have a voice, but I know that with that comes a lot of time commitment on committees. And so will there be administrative support? Because I know not necessarily for me, but for other staff, one thing that prevents participation is the supervisors not releasing them to be able to do or devote the time that's necessary to all this committee work. Another thing to consider is, accreditation. Will that mean that these folks are obligated to do more for that? And then also how will the voices of everyone, all the staff on campus, be heard? How will the representatives keep that communication channel open?
So it would be discussed with the administration for the release time. I think once we start creating it, we can have more of a dialogue with the administration on whether we can be released, and the details are to come.
Did we answer your full question? Is that?
I guess I was also wondering, and maybe it hasn't been thought all the way through yet, that I get that, but what will the channels of communication be to make sure that everybody on campus is feeling like they actually, have a way to give input?
So we're hoping that once this Senate is created, that you would at least be able to voice your concern to that body, and they would be able to address it. But yeah, this is so new, that we're trying to be like the Faculty Senate, where at least they have a body that the faculty can go to. And right now, there's a Faculty Senate, there's an ASUH, there's a GSO, that all are dotted lines to administration. And what we're trying to do is create a staff senate that could go to it. And we're hoping that whoever is on that council, not council, but the Senate, that you would be able to voice your concerns to that.
And we have another question. I think Lynn might be able to answer this one, but this was something that our subcommittee tackled. How was the number of Senate members determined? I think before we talked about having 20 total members, and we did kind of have not a formula, but we had a rationale for that.
Unless anyone else in the working group wants to answer that. All right. So for simplicity's sake, we broke up, and again, it'll be addressed in the bylaws, which we will also share with everybody as well. But in the bylaws, we broke up the groups based on your union membership, just because those are broad categorizations for your job descriptions. So there are 3 different groups that got broken up to, essentially UPW employees, HGA civil service, and APTs. So each of those groups got a number of representatives based on the total number of employees that are reflected in each of those groups. So 5 representatives from Group A, which were the UPW employees, 5 representatives from Group B, which were the civil servants, and up to 10 representatives from APT. So a total of 20. If we get there, we get there. If we don't, we don't. But that was the rationale for that. Yes, also. So we did that as a broad stroke to help us kind of categorize people, but these also include excluded members as well. So it is all of your white-collar supervisors, your white-collar civil servants, as well as the excluded members who are white-collar as well. Same thing with the blue-collar supervisors, excluded members of those. Group B also includes the nurses and Unit 10, which I'm not exactly sure what they represent. I apologize if you're here. We still love you. But yeah, that's generally how it was broken down. Again, for simplicity, for this first year, always up for a readjustment as we move forward. Yeah, and just to be clear, like we did that specifically to simplify breaking up classifications, job classifications, is nothing to do with union membership whatsoever. It was just the easiest way to kind of break up our job categories. Any questions? Sure.
Okay, so we have a comment online. Okay, so we have a comment online and said, I heard one instance of faculty questioning the inclusion of phase instructional in the charter. It might have come from a place of staff shouldn't be in reviewing matters of academic instruction. Just for something for us to clarify, the staff is here to support core activities of the university, which means we need a voice at the table, but my sense we're trying to be. I think what we came across is bullet number 2 in the charter. And there was a question, I believe, by the, okay, the bullet is initiation, review, and evaluation of proposed or authorized instructional, scholarship, academic, and community service programs. I believe this was the bullet that was there was wanting to have more clarification about this.
So I think the main comment that we received from faculty senate that we heard was their concern around wanting input on academic policies and programming. We didn't want to exclude it because we do have APTs that serve in academic functions. So we wanted to leave it open for them to make comments on that. And I think in the working group, we don't necessarily have anybody that fulfills those functions. But now that we're rolling this out to the larger group, it gives us the opportunity to have that conversation with the people who do fulfill those functions. And I think we'll be able to go back and have a rationale for that if we do want to keep it in.
Okay, yet another question. This is coming from, we do have people from JAPSUM that is watching remotely. They asked, 0.5 FTE employees are eligible for benefits and union membership. Can the qualification of Senate membership be lowered to 0.75, be lowered from the 0.75 FTE? I think I'm going to have to defer this one to you as well.
So I think to clarify, it's nothing to do with your union membership. These are because they will be completely separate issues. So part of the reason that we really wanted to do this is in meeting with the chancellor, he mentioned that he didn't want there to be this, he wanted there to be a clear distinction between staff Senate matters and union matters. At the moment, he has nowhere to direct things that he sends to faculty senate. He has nowhere to direct that with staff, which is why he is very supportive of this occurring. There are things that are just, they don't make sense to go to the union. There are things that he would never send to UPA that goes to faculty senate. So it has nothing to do with our union membership. This has to do with our existence on campus as staff members. So the 0.75 for now was just, again, to help us. We had to draw a line somewhere. When we initially met, that was where we drew the line. There was a small group of volunteers that were already talking to the chancellor about creating a staff senate on campus. We are the ones who created the draft email to send out to everybody to invite them to the working group. And that was the line that we drew in the sand. And again, we wanted people to feel invested in the university. So the 0.75 FTE came out of the desire to make sure that we were getting people who were invested at working in the university. It's not to say that it wouldn't change, but for now, we had to start somewhere, right? We were starting with a completely blank slate, and we needed to start putting words on a piece of paper. So that has brought us to here. And again, this first year is going to be radically different from next year and the year after that. But
questions still? We're hoping that we could get a little bit more feedback through the questions. And just because we're going to be going into possibly more rounds of the bylaws, especially. We can't go really into too much detail about that, but is everybody, I mean, we would love to see more feedback about the charter at this point.
so again, like mentioned before, that the bylaws is going to be the working document that we're going to keep poking at and just making changes to. That we can make changes to quickly. The charter, this is kind of going to be written in stone. This is going to be the document that establishes us on the organizational chart. That is not something that we can alter easily. So we want this to be the final draft that we send up for approvals wherever they need to get approvals from, so that we get that dotted line onto the chart. Now is the time to hear from you, because we want to incorporate your voice into this as much as possible. Yeah. And you can also, so commenting can happen all the way through next week, Friday, the 15th. You can do it online. You can call one of us if you feel more comfortable talking to one of us. We will take your comments any way that you want to provide them, but just provide them. Go back and tell all of your coworkers about it. Just direct them to the website, because there they will be able to see the recording of today's meeting. They will be able to view the draft charter themselves. They can provide comments from there. So please just get the word out, because again, we're trying to be as collective and collaborative as possible. So we need you guys to help us with that.
With that said, hi everyone. With that said, as a member of the working group, I would like to stress that feedback can come in different forms. So I think a lot of the focus will be on constructive comments, and those are most appreciated. What we also will need to hear from you as far as the working group are things that you absolutely want to keep into the charter. I think that's important to remember as well. Going back to the question about instructional, the faculty and their questions on it, we really need to know what staff want and are, responsible for so that we can make sure that's covered in our shared governance document. So please do keep that in mind. All feedback is welcome. I also would like to go back to a previous question while it's on my mind, and this had to do with the emphasis or the focus of the Senate once it's created. So I think, as can be seen with a lot of the discussion today, there's a lot that's in progress and a lot of work that will have to happen. That said, the Senate, I think, in its first year will really have to be focused on gaining traction. Just because there's the creation of a Senate is a good big first step, but there needs to be movement in terms of making sure that that recognition is honored. So I think if I could say a bit on that, that's what I think the focus of the Senate should be, in addition to some of these other big issues like the reorg.
I have a suggestion, maybe that might elicit more feedback, is if the working group can maybe have some concrete questions for us to respond to. Because I think just asking for feedback, nobody really knows, well, what are the most pressing things that we should be looking at. So it would be helpful to have some guidance and maybe some questions that we can respond to.
We can work on that. Our tech committee can post questions on the website. I think pressing at the moment that we really don't have any information on. If you know any staff members that do academic programming, hearing from them would be very, very helpful. So use your networks, let them know that we want to hear from them. As so when we were forming the working group, we tried as much as possible to find excluded members, people in the civil service. Like, we tried to find at least one representative from every group possible, and we did the best that we could. But we've definitely kept every group in mind as much as we can. So now that we're ready with documents for review, if we can find all of these pockets that their voices haven't been heard just yet, that would be very, very helpful.
Another question. Are charters from other campuses available for viewing? I believe that they have to put it on their website, but we may work to put it on ours, depending on at least for a temporary situation, so people can see what other charters look like. Certainly ours is right now on the website itself, so I encourage you to go. Hopefully everybody read it before this town hall. If not, please do so and kind of look at everything in there to make sure that it makes sense before we move forward. I think another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about really quickly is talking about inclusion. I just want to make sure that if there's other staff members out there that aren't able to really attend these kind of things or don't think they have the commitment because of work situations or administration, we really want to hear about that too, because we want to make sure that we can somehow address that in a not necessarily in the bylaws or a charter, but figuring out a way that, because if we become recognized, this would be something that would be work related. So again, we would like to hear from everybody that's eligible members.
And just quickly to address the charter question, I have gotten in touch with the various council groups across the campuses, but they may themselves have their charters posted on their website. But before we just share it with everybody, I should follow up with them. to make sure it's okay with them that we're posting it. Although if you want to take a look at the Faculty Senate Charter, feel free, they've got a website. Anything else?
Hi, aloha. My name is Truck Nguyen. I'm not a staff member. I'm a faculty member, and I'm here in support of this particular initiative. I just came from the College of Education Senate meeting, and at that meeting, we unanimously passed a resolution of support for this charter for a staff Senate and Congress. And I don't have it on letterhead yet. It's just on my little phone here. But I would like to read it to everyone because no one had any issues. I mean, we all felt very strongly that our programs and this university wouldn't run anywhere near as efficiently as it does without our colleagues. So it says here, whereas the University of Hawaii at Manoa has not had a mechanism for staff member consultation in changes in policy and operations of the campus. And whereas the UHM has shared governance mechanisms in place for faculty via the Manoa Faculty Senate, students via the Associated Students of the University of Hawaii at Manoa and the Graduate Student Organization, and whereas the UHM also has consultation mechanisms in place via a Kuali'i Council and Athletic Advisory Board, and whereas the staff of UHM has proposed a draft charter to establish a UHM Staff Congress and Senate, and now has the opportunity, after 51 years, to establish a formal voice. And whereas the College of Education Senate and Congress already includes staff members in our Senate and Congress in issues of personnel, budget and facilities, student-faculty relations, diversity, college fellowship, and governance, therefore, be it resolved that the UHM College of Education Faculty Senate supports unanimously the formation of a UHM Staff Congress and Senate. So we wanted to stand in support of all of you in this effort, and we wish you all the best as you move forward.
Thank you. All right, any other concerns or comments, or you want us to any way that will make the comment process easier? So I just also want to say, I forgot to mention that the working group has been working very, very hard. Many, many hours have been devoted to get us just to this point. Many more hours will get us bylaws that we will present to you as well. But we are going to hit a point where we're going to need an actual Senate. So start thinking about who you would like to represent you, if you yourself would like to be a representative. We really do want a full functioning Senate that's dedicated to kind of looking at, you know, how the functioning is working as well as doing the work on campus. So please be ready to participate fully. Thank you so much for coming. Please do comment. Please encourage your colleagues to comment. We'll work together as a working group to see if there are questions we can post on the website that might help you comment more directly. All right. Thank you very much.